Hi my friends, welcome to the channel English Professionally, and this video course is for you. So it's called 525 English sentences with 100 irregular verbs. So you see it's a very intensive English grammar, English vocabulary, English speaking and listening practice. So you can listen and repeat for more progress, okay? Are you ready? I hope so. It costs too little. I heard it on TV. I grew up in Brazil. She drew a very beautiful picture. She made a very big discovery. This soldier fought very courageously. I read it online. I left India. I paid for this course. The dog bit him. He wore very poor clothes. He dreamt about that career. They sent me this notification. I paid for it online. I lent him this sum of money. I knew him very well. He withdrew 20,000 euros from his account. I grew up in the capital of our country. I grew up in a small town. We won in that competition. Two apples fell down. He went to school. I could listen to these videos, do my homework. They forgave him. I dealt with different clients. He kept his word. He slept too long. He came to the meeting. I could do my homework listening to this playlist. He lay down. I swam in the river. He set up a profitable company. I fed my cat. He felt so unhappy. The price rose by 30%. I heard it for the second time. I came there on time. He cut the meat into 4 parts. They spoke Spanish. The police caught the thief. We spoke only English. It cost too much. He gave up smoking. The girl showed outstanding results. The lesson began. I lit the candle. This pair of shoes fit me. I woke up later than usual. He gave me this advice. I spent more than $700 on it. He withdrew all the money. It cost $300. I foresaw this situation. She cut the meat. She redid this exercise. He lost his keys. I sat down. He hung his coat. The lesson began 3 hours ago. This sweater fit him perfectly. We left England. I read it in that article. He hurt his leg. He hurt her feelings. I woke up very early. He got $2,000 monthly. He sometimes overpaid. They sent me a parcel. I dealt with suppliers. She drew something very special. I felt very good. I slept enough. She felt so sad. The conference began 2 hours later. The bell rang 2 minutes ago. He had a very spacious house. She sent me a letter. He set up a very profitable company. He told him everything. He said it very loudly. Those clothes fit you perfectly. I think you spent too little money. I learned these rules by heart. They fought very bravely. I bought it for $300. I heard it for the first time. They burned the building. The price rose by 15%. An angry dog bit him. They met at last. I found out that it was a serious mistake. He held her back. I rode a bike. I went cycling. He gave me this advice. He fell on the ground, or he fell down. The meeting began much later. He made such a big mistake. I sat on a chair. It cost more than she thinks. They made a very interesting discovery. I read such an interesting book. We left this city last year. They had a great time together. I read it in some articles. He drew a masterpiece. My boss did him a favor. I put it near my computer. I ran him. The boat sank. They could help you instead of him. I forgot to do it. I dreamt about different things. He hit the door. I learned it by heart. He shot the bird. He lit the light. He drank a bottle of milk. I forgot this thing completely. I found out that it was a mistake. I redid all those exercises. He set it on the table. It smelled terrible. It smelled awful. He drove to work. She lit the candle. We slept more than enough. We found out that the keys were there. I withdrew $700. I drove home. I sent her this email. She felt unhappy. I threw it away. I could learn English for hours. She was so disappointed. She went to work. You did it very well. The price rose by 25%. I thought so too. They dug a hole in the ground, or they dug a pit in the ground. I swam there last summer. I hung my coat on a hook. I sat down. She taught this subject at university. She withdrew all the money from her account. They sold their country house for $50,000. I swam in the pond. I woke up very early. I thought the same. I wrote down this word. He saw his mistakes at last. She grew fruit and vegetables in her own garden. He kept his money in a bank. She wore very stylish clothes. They had a special offer. He felt so sad. We overcame different difficulties. He kept this secret. This dress fit you perfectly. She wore very expensive clothes. She ate too little. He became a very famous actor. I flew back to Los Angeles. I grew up in America. They were bitterly disappointed. They left this country. He stole jewelry. That ship sank. I took him with me. I hung my jacket on a hook. I stood up, or I got up. So you know that these sentences have a different meaning. I swam in the lake. I forgot to tell them this thing. The soldiers burned that house. She said it very loudly. He bought a new car. He fell down and hurt his arm. They sold their house for $500,000. I found out that it was a big mistake. His parents let him do it. He could come to her quite often. He sold his business. I saw it very clearly. I thought differently, or I thought another way. It smelled good. He cut himself. I made a mistake. I spoke only English. I heard it on the radio. He set up a very successful company. I foresaw these changes. His words meant the following. I drove to the park. I read it in this article. He gave up drinking. He became famous. They burned the village. I did it on time. I found out that she was right. He often overpaid for no reason. I was bitterly disappointed. It spoiled our plans. They broke this rule, or they broke such an important rule. They understood each other. It spoiled their plans. I read such a funny story. The computer cost $800. I held it in my arms. He ran away. The boy showed an outstanding result. He drove home. The conference began an hour later. He brought us this document. I paid for the delivery. They hid the door. I redid this exercise. He gave me this recommendation. I wrote down this phrase. He meant to help us. I learned so many new words. I caught the ball. We overcame those difficulties. Okay. She ran very slowly. We had a good time together. It cost more than he thinks. It cost several $1,000s. I found this channel at last. He came back, or he returned. They spoke French. I could do it for hours. She came to the party. I won at last. He threw a ball to me. I learned English. I woke up earlier than usual. He set up a very profitable business. She took our offer. I understood you immediately, or I understood you at once. She grew up in England. He lied to his boss. They hit him very badly, or they hit him very hard. He got $2,000 a month. I flew to India, so we need a capital letter here, India. He stole jewelry. She became a famous actress. I threw it away. She felt so tired. I got an email from her, or I received an email from her. She spent too much money. He lit the lamp. The lecture began 2 hours ago. He lit the cigarette. They ran away. We foresaw these difficulties. My friend did him a favor. I swam in the ocean. It cost more than you think. He sold his house. The price rose by 20%. I grew up in India. She hurt her arm. She foresaw this situation. I wrote down the following thing. She found this channel at last. She gave up smoking. He rode a horse yesterday. I met my classmate yesterday. She fought for her rights. I read it in several articles. She sold her flat. I forgave her. I put it on the desk. I perfectly understood you. So we won in that contest. He wore very stylish clothes. She bought it with a very big discount. These shoes fit me. They stole all her money. I heard it in the news. She tore the papers. He brought this thing to me. She lost her keys. I wrote down this word. They often underpaid her. I paid for the service. The conference began an hour ago. He got $400 a month. He kept his money in a safe place. I overcame all these difficulties. She tore that document. I withdrew $300 from my account. He taught English. I heard it only yesterday. We took his offer. He told me everything. He brought me this thing. She felt upset. He hit the ball. She saw her mistakes. They dug a hole or they dug a pit. He learned English. I also thought so. I went to work. I lay down. He drank a carton of milk. The price fell very sharply. He sang his favorite song. He put it near his computer. We caught fish. I swam in the lake yesterday. The bell rang. It cost $1 million. He threw a stone at her. She cut herself. He had a very interesting idea. He redid it. He sent me an email. He got enough money. I did my homework. She felt sad. I drove to work. I learned this text by heart. I could learn English really enjoying it. The police caught this criminal. He tore the book. They broke the rules. The ship sank last year. I could discuss it for hours. We knew everything. I lay in bed. I overslept yesterday. He redid his homework. We thought the same. I found my wallet. The wind blew suddenly. I dealt with different complaints. She sang very beautifully. He drowned. I rode a camel. My parents let me do it. I swam in the sea. She hid behind a tree. She said it very quietly. I'm afraid you misunderstood me. She taught this subject at school. He came to the meeting later. I laid it on the table. He kept his promise. I went cycling. I rode a horse. He became very famous. I paid for her. They burned the house. The boys hid behind a tree. He lost his wallet. He dreamt about big money. They made an interesting discovery. Her boss often underpaid the employees. It smelled bad. He hurt her feelings. She fed her baby. He dug a hole. He dug a pit. I could listen to her doing other things. They spoke German. She kept her money in this bank. We spoke English yesterday. They usually spend time together. She drowned. She forgot everything. The food smelled very bad. She told me this thing. The soldiers fought very bravely and courageously. She often overslept. My friend did him a favor. The girl showed excellent results. I paid for him. He showed brilliant results. She bought a very spacious flat. The meeting began 15 minutes later. She cut the fish into 4 pieces. She felt so unhappy. They caught this criminal. I saw tears on her eyes. We stood up. He felt very disappointed. He threw me a ball. I saw my progress. I held her back. We wore a school uniform. He tore the papers. He dreamt about money. They shot him. She drove home. Her boss often underpaid the workers. I did everything on time. They had a great time together. His boss often underpaid him. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He hid behind that building. She hurt his feelings. He lit the lamp. She lost her bag. Sometimes he overate. I said it again. I understood your point of view. The food smelled very bad. They fought for independence. He taught me a lesson. He sang really well. She fed the children. She fed the cat. It meant the following. Our meeting began much later. He felt so upset. He could explain very difficult things using simple words. They often drew together. I sat in an armchair. The lesson began on time. He gave up drinking beer. We had a great time together. I met him yesterday. She laid it on the table. I flew to America. She dreamt about different things. He foresaw these troubles. I usually slept for about 8 hours. She forgave him. They spoiled the food. We found out all the truth. I read it in this newspaper. I found my keys. He never overate. I read it in that magazine. It cost $3 million. I saw her for the first time. We left America. She won at last. It cost more than $300. I drove to that place. We understood his point of view. He stole her bag. They broke this chair. He was bitterly disappointed. I left home. They spoke Japanese. I forgot everything. He broke this rule. The dog bit her. He tore those papers. He stole his wallet. She foresaw these problems. We left for America. I could listen to the radio doing other things. He often overate. He cut himself yesterday. I forgot to call her. The lecture began 15 minutes ago. I heard it for the third time. He drank a glass of milk. I slept for 2 hours. They broke the window. I felt so happy. We won in that tournament. This son became very popular. He became a very successful businessman. I lent her $50. He set a glass of water on the table. I forgot to say it. Her parents let her go there. I could do it thinking about other things. I felt so. We knew it in the beginning. He spoiled everything. Her parents let her do it. They took him with them. A very strong wind blew. I left for Russia. The criminal stole jewelry. He lent her $700. She sent me a message. They spoke Italian. He wrote a very long message. They lent him this sum of money. She forgave him. She forgave everything. She dreamt about a career in music. I sometimes overpaid. He made a discovery. He meant to help me. Or he intended to help me. I threw this thing away, or I threw away this thing. I stood behind him. He told her too much. He fed his dog. He gave this thing to me. I met so many new words there. The wind blew unexpectedly. I dealt with clients. We took him with us. I put it on the table. She lied to me. I redid this exercise at last. This lesson began half an hour ago. He lent her $2,000. I said it one more time. I think you misunderstood me. She ran very fast. He fought for his country. The sun rose. The sun went up. They spoke Chinese. He paid for us. I wrote down this expression. We sometimes spent time together. I overslept. He did me a favor. I flew to the United States. He wrote such an interesting book. I sat down and then I stood up. She drew a real masterpiece. She wore very poor clothes. She sang very beautifully. I found out that we had some problems. We overcame all these difficulties. He wore very stylish clothes. He flew to New York. The boys swam in the swimming pool the day before yesterday. I wore a belt. He went to another place. Okay, my friends, thank you very much. So I really hope that it was a great idea to record this kind of video. Okay, thank you. Bye bye. See you.